All right, episode 199. Today, we're going to be talking about the unseen influence, which is the hidden cycle impacting realtors and real estate. So we're going to get started right now.
That is now.
All right, welcome back to episode 199.
Dang,
One more to go.
what?
Today, it's just Kelderman and I. Last week, it was me and Brian navigating episode 198. We were navigating the NAR sexual harassment
It was
case.
a fun one.
Yeah, dude. It's funny because I jumped on and was able to see a little bit and share it out, and I was like, all right.
Yeah. You missed the part where we're like, Kelderman, what is your thoughts? And then we just panned to your empty chair.
Somebody played like a cricket drop over it.
I wish we would have had that.
That would have been glorious.
That was kind of the idea. So if you want to go check that one out, how Brian and I kind of navigated the waters of that one. Episode 198, 197 was a great one where we talked about the Keller Williams profit share decision that they made. So listen to that episode. And then today, you're going to want to listen to this one because this was an idea given to me actually this morning by a good friend and agent and the dude's family, Denton Guam. We were kind of talking about what's going on in the real estate market. He said, "Ooh, this topic would be a great podcast idea." So thank you, Denton, for that.
It's about 8 hours more preparation than we usually have. So
Exactly. And I also want to thank our sponsors today. We got old Mortgage Mike giving that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. All you need to do, if you're looking for a good loan, if you're looking for someone to approve you on every single, if you got bad credit, you don't care.
doesn't
You
matter.
don't care. No credit, doesn't matter. You got a job, $199. What commercial is that? That's a car commercial.
It is a car commercial.
Bad credit, doesn't matter. Got $199, you're approved. Come on down to the Mortgage Mike office in McKinney. All you have to do is go to mmgloans.com. That's Mortgage Mike Group, so mmgloans.com, and just ask them for that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. Then while you're writing up that offer, get that hard shell protection from Armadillo Home Warranty. Go to armadillo.1//TOR, T-O-R-E. We were talking to a property management company. So Homeward, DFW, by the way, homewardDFW.com. Homeward is acquiring 100 doors to manage and from this other property manager. And Dana Wynn and this other property manager were talking about how they really disliked home warranties. And I guess it's a pain when the property management side. And so what I do want to find out from Theron Smith over at Armadillo Home Warranty is, would this be a lot easier to use the Armadillo warranty?
Yeah.
Because they've got the reimbursement plan. You can use your own contractors. You don't have to jump through all the hoops. They have the one-page contract. Makes it super simple. So I wonder if that would make it a lot easier, especially for investors and property managers to work together with warranty companies.
It would almost have to. Because at the end of the day, like when I'm explaining a home warranty to my clients, I'm like, look, this is an insurance policy. They're going to act like almost any insurance company and try to end around you on this stuff,
Yes.
right? So call me and I'll try and work it up the chain. So we've got Theron in our pocket already. Let's just
That's right.
do our dirty
Armadillo.1//TOR.
work.
Armadillo.1//TOR, T-O-R-E. And then, because they are the new age of home warranty. I didn't even notice that at the bottom. The new age of home warranty.
I didn't know that.
I think we need to change that, Jesse, that hard shell protection. The new age of home warranty. What does that even mean? And then, like we said, Dana Wynn over at Homeward Property Management. Go to Homeward DFW if you've got investors needing to get their properties managed. Maybe you're an investor yourself and you're tired of dealing with those tenant calls, the maintenance requests, just the headache of managing your own property because they try to take advantage of you.
Maybe you thought you were like the greatest tenant placement person in the world, and you were like, oh, this person's nice.
Yes.
And now you found out 3 months later they're professional renters.
Yes.
And they're just dog walking you all over the place.
You know what I love? Professional renters.
My mom has been in property management for a few decades, and I have heard that term a long time. There are people out there who just know, they understand how to game the system. And this is, I think, what people don't understand. Even as a real estate agents, this is why we look out for our clients when we're helping them rent their one-off properties too, is because there are a lot of people out there who understand the ins and outs of this stuff. And tenant law is very tenant friendly right now, right? And so if you put a bad tenant in a property for your client, just so you can get that 35% like 1 month check from them, like hand that off to Homeward. It's not worth the headache and potential backlash from your client. Because dude, I placed the wrong tenant one time and she was flushing Walmart bags down the toilet to plug up the plumbing just to wreak havoc. That was the whole reason.
Professional renters.
Professional renters.
Yeah, homewarddfw.com. And then go, if you're looking as a real estate professional, especially after hearing this show, The Unseen Influence, The Hidden Cycle Impacting Realtors and Real Estate, you're going to want to make a podcast. You'll want to get your video, just your video marketing up to speed, maybe updated or just better, or maybe you just need to do it all together because you're not doing it. Go to Tor Studios, torstudios.com. Get with Jesse Showalter. He's got he has that new client he just promoted today. That was cool.
I saw it. It was awesome.
That was
I
awesome.
think he will be a really good guest to have on the show too. So
Cross promotion, viral marketing, baby.
I'm all for it. So, look, today's episode is thank you to Denton and Guam for bringing this one up, because we were talking about, I was chatting with him about some, I was actually calling him to ask if Keller Williams did certain things, because EXP is making there's some changes on the kind of operational side. I was like, oh, how's KW do it? And then we're just chatting about kind of the business right now with how's attracting agents in. What are they doing? Are they getting in production? Market's all changing. And one of the things that I'm seeing right now with agents is we're getting a lot of agents reaching out because their business is way off and they don't know how to correct it. And then they sit down and meet with us, and they love everything they have to hear about the team, our team in general, and they sign up.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, they're super stoked, they're super excited, they can't wait. We do the intro, we do an intro call celebrating them, and then all of a sudden, they don't show up ever again.
Yeah.
And then you come to find out, like half the time, they've switched to another brokerage without saying anything. And the only time you find out is when you reach out to them, or they reach out to you, because the previous brokerage they just switched from is still charging the monthly office rent on their credit card, and asking if we can get it back for them. Right? And so these
sound like very specific and recent problems.
Yes. And so what we're starting to see right now is everyone's got their eye on the other brokerages or teams, and hoping that will solve their problem, which is they don't have a pipeline. The problem of they don't know where their next deal is coming from or how to get to the next deal, or the problem of just being disciplined enough to even figure out what type of lead gen they want to do.
Do you brought up something, and I want to dive into that, but like as somebody who like recruits agents like to your team, and I've done that same job, right? Like I actually get really nervous about the agents who don't ask many questions and are really excited to partner. I'm like, they're going to be gone so fast, right? Like, because I kind of want a little bit of resistance when I'm talking to you about something. I want you to have questions. I want you to press into it a little bit, because to your point, there are landmines in everything, right? And when somebody's just so crazy excited and they dive right in and they can't even, like, no questions, just ready to go. They believe every single thing I say to them. I think there's actually a little bit of intimidation is not the right word. I worry about those people a little bit more than I worry about the people who are really skeptical up front. Because if you've asked me a lot of questions, really prodded, and then still made a decision, I feel like you're a lot more in the person who's like, yeah, this is just the next thing that'll fix my business. And I'm always, I don't know about you, but I'm worried about those people who sign up too fast.
Sure. I mean, it's both ways, right? So the ones that sign up too fast, they don't ask questions.
And there's people who never make a move.
Then there's those. Or there's the ones that just overthink everything.
Yeah.
And then you've got to drag their decision out of them.
The problem with that is then you're constantly selling value. When you have to kind of like drag that decision out of them, what I've found in the past is then now we are continuing to resell value like constantly, which doesn't usually work. If
Yeah.
somebody doesn't believe in the value, they're gone.
Which, and then at this very moment, right, when the market turns and things are getting harder, here's what everyone wants to do. Any business, any real estate agent, sounds like New Year gym memberships. Exactly.
It's exactly like New Year gym memberships.
This is what happens. Everyone, last couple of years, let's be real, market was super easy.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have any skill. You have to have no knowledge other than how much money do you have in your
Your buyer
bank
needed to be
account?
insanely qualified,
Yes.
and your seller needed to have a house to sell.
Be like, Matt, how much cash do you have that you can go over their asking price? Right? That's the only skill you had to have is ask how much. On the listing side, the only skill was you had to actually follow through with putting it on the MLS, could take the most god-awful photos, didn't even matter what it looked like, and it was going to sell for 50, 60, 70,000 over asking.
Yep.
Right? You would have a ton of interest. All the 5s look like 10s during that time.
Of course.
Right? They look like supermodels.
Yeah.
And so, now with this market turning, we're starting to see all these agents starting to look around like, ooh, I'd never actually built a foundation in my business. And I never really interviewed brokerages or real estate teams. Mm-hmm. And so they're going around and looking at who may have the easy button or those easy leads, that secret sauce. I mean, like, if you just give me, I'm good face to face. Here's the number one thing we get. Like, he's like, I don't really want to lead generate, but if you've got a pipeline full of ready to go buyers and sellers, I'm really good at working those. Well, no kidding.
Real estate agents, if you find because this is something I think I've heard over the years too, and I'm always like, well, of course you are. And you know how much I would be willing to pay you on these ready to go leads? 10 to 15%, right? Like, I'm going to pay you to go close them real quick for me, right? But like, if we've already done all the nurturing and all of the hard stuff, like, I'm sure if all you had to do was go in people's living rooms, you would close some deals. That's what we are all looking for.
Yeah. Which we can relate this, like when you first got licensed. So all this can be related to anything, any decision that you're making, right? So ultimately, this unseen influence, the hidden cycle of impact, the hidden cycle that's impacting realtors and real estate, is ultimately what's called these 5 emotional cycle of change, right? So everything is this cycle of change, and what we're talking about at the moment is, in these 5 stages, the very, very first stage is called uninformed optimism. And the way that we want to look at this and understand it, this is whether where you're at in your business right now or you're brand new and you just got your real estate license, everyone goes through this. And this is the honeymoon period. Right? If we were to visualize this for a second, so as long as you're not driving, if you were to close your eyes for a second, just imagine that you're on a cliff and you're looking to the other side, but you can't really see down below that cliff. You don't know how steep it is, how far it falls. You don't know the terrain, but on the other side is the pot of gold that you're trying to get. Right? So our uninformed optimism, our honeymoon period, is we just imagine that we're going to walk on air and get to that other side. It's going to be so easy, Matt. Like, I got my real estate license. I've got a lot of friends. They like me. I love looking at houses, by the way. I love looking at houses.
I watch $1 million listings.
Yeah, I've already figured it all out. They make it look so easy.
Selling Sunset is my favorite.
All they do is get on the phone. They wear a hard hat sometimes when they walk into this new construction, and they just made $100,000 commission.
Mm-hmm.
So easy, right? And then they get their license, and they make a post on Facebook, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's only day one. It's only day one. Like, it's got to get better because this is the honeymoon period. And what we're seeing in this market right now is that honeymoon period, it probably worked pretty fast, right? They jumped in. Their friends were like, hey, I've got a house to sell because I know it's worth a shit ton more, so I'm going to just use you. Mm-hmm. And they just were selling. And so now that the music has ended, and now that honeymoon period of how easy things were, it's gone.
Yeah.
They're having to pick up the phones, if they actually are, or they're saying, my friends, they're saying they're not buying right now. They're not selling. They're saying it's actually a really bad time.
Isn't it? weird how we use this uninformed optimism idea as a way to escape work? But then, because I've been able to talk to some pretty successful real estate agents over my career, and I will tell you, this uninformed optimism stage is where all of them make all of their hay, right? The agent who comes in and doesn't understand that cold calls kind of suck because they didn't listen to everybody. The agent who comes in and doesn't understand that closing 30 deals in your first year is not normal and really hard, right? Like and these are stories we've heard from brand new agents, right? They just didn't know they weren't supposed to sell 30 houses. This is the stage where you can sprint away from every other real estate agent who is in your class, at your brokerage. If you kind of take this uninformed optimism stage, which it's hard because you don't know what you don't know, but if you can recycle this back into your career and just act like a new agent, like you didn't know calling expireds was kind of scary. You didn't know that sometimes nobody shows up to open houses, right? You didn't know that sometimes FSBOs tell you to go eat shit. Like you didn't know any of those things. If you can mentally take yourself back to that uninformed optimism / happy idiot stage of real estate, you can reinvent your entire business. It's a great place to reset to for agents who are serious about wanting to move forward.
Think of it this way. That's the dopamine phase.
Of course.
Right? So like Jesse, if you pull up that other slide real quick, in it talks about this. It's the most exciting stage. It's anything. It's people who go on a weight loss journey and they've already visualized them losing weight, but they can see themselves in better shape, feeling better, having more energy. Then all of a sudden they're like, man, I got to eat salad for lunch. I really want to have a burger, man.
Yeah.
I can't drink as much anymore. Man, I had a really shit day. I want to have a drink and I want to have dessert.
Yep.
And then they just fall off. And you're like, next Monday. Next Monday's my day. That's when I'm restarting everything back over. And so it's the same thing in our business right now, which is we're looking at the other brokerages and what do brokerages or team do? We're just as guilty on the team side of like, come over here, everything's going to be easy. We're going to take everything off of your plate. We have leads galore, and you're going to sell as many houses as you want. Unlimited income and earning opportunity.
All of that stuff's true.
It is.
It is true.
Everything is true.
Yeah.
But it takes work. It takes you having to learn the systems. It takes you having to really have the systems work for your benefit.
Yeah.
It takes actually understanding what's going on in this market and the cycle of this market and how to overcome people's objections, even if it's your own friends or family.
There can be a lot of like way too much talk in the uninformed optimism stage too, right? Like you just end up you'll go to trainings, right? You ask a lot of questions. You're doing stuff. You're out there doing stuff that isn't moving your business forward in really any way.
Yes.
And it's depleting your energy for actual activity. Katie, you're not wrong. The Monday thing. I lost 6 months of my business starting on Monday. Yeah. Meaning like every week, Monday was going to be the day I got my shit together.
Monday I'm going to door knock.
And for 6 months, I did nothing.
Yep.
Because Monday was going to be and I loved Thursdays because Thursdays were close enough for Mondays to make me not feel guilty about taking off Friday because I was going to start on Monday.
Yeah.
So if I could just ride the wave of my own bullshit from Monday to Wednesday, that you only have to lie to yourself for a couple of days to make this work, by the way, guys. And this is what we all end up doing. I lied to myself and I felt bad. Tuesdays and Wednesdays were the worst because those were the 2 days I knew I was going to do the same bullshit I did last week.
Yeah.
But every Thursday, it was fine. Because why am I going to start on Friday? It's Friday. Like, why would I start on Friday? And then it's just going to be the weekend, and I'm going to stop again. I'm going to lose all my momentum. I will start on Monday, right? Yeah. And 6 months later, I started, and it probably was not even on a Monday.
Yeah, probably. And look at it from a real estate, like if you're looking at other brokerages that or just joining teams. And look, I'm a huge advocate for joining a team. I'm a big believer that number one, not only will it shortcut the process, that you can actually build and make more money utilizing within the right team structure. That at the right team, you could really never outgrow it.
Here's the reality too: individual agent to helping this team grow to really huge to back to individual agent. None of this works without personal commitment to activity.
Correct.
Right? Like it just doesn't.
Correct.
Whether you are on your own, whether you are on a team, none of it works unless you say, I am going to do something different. Like Nick doesn't have leads just to hand you for you to go F them all away, which is probably what you do with your opportunities now if you're stuck, right? Like, I know agents know that, but there isn't the decision has to be, I want to try something new. And part of that newness also has to be, you need to do more.
And when we look at this as a whole, the term lead is just, I freaking hate it.
Inquiry, dude. I thought that was the best
Well,
way,
it was still all the same. I hate it only because when you're advertising online, when you're generating leads, there's only a finite number of real estate sales that happen every year, by the way.
Right.
There's only a finite number of people that are within the appropriate buying or selling age, right? So it's not like you have a different lead source than I do.
Correct.
Right? They all are
all the
very
Zillow leads
similar.
are sitting in all of our databases,
Yes.
being ignored on various levels by your systems.
I'm
by
gonna,
the way.
well, yes, 100%. And I would. You're not wrong, because there's a buyer that Elizabeth has under contract that came from another lead source recently that I started to input it in our system. I'm like, oh, that person's been here. They've been in our system since 2020. That was a Facebook lead. This other one has a referral fee attached to it. And I'm like, ooh, that sucks, because we've already paid to acquire that lead back in 2020. We had been following up. We just, for whatever reason, didn't connect. And that person, when she had talked to Elizabeth, she's like, oh, I actually talked to Nick back in 2020. Now it just makes, like, it actually just, solidified the relationship. But now we have to pay a referral fee on it. And it's like, see, guys, the lead sources are all the same. You don't have a secret Facebook lead source. You don't have a secret internet lead source. It's pay-per-click. It's Facebook leads. You can buy Zillow. You can buy Realtor.com. They're all the same people.
It's the same people. It's why everybody, one of the things that Brian does really well is generate digital leads, right? Google pay-per-click, Facebook retargeting leads, and he does it at a very affordable cost, right? But these are the same people who are going to Zillow, right? The only reason they went to Zillow was because Zillow's SEO and their budget is way bigger than yours is.
Yeah.
They don't have a Playster account. And and their SEO's good, right? So it's like it's all everything. And just side note, this is why working your database is so great, because this is where you separate yourself a little bit, right? This is where you're not getting every lead everybody else is getting. This is why working on your craft and not being a script master, but being a conversational artist becomes even better, right?
But
because
I will say your database could be in other people's because they're online.
It fucking is in somebody else's database, because I just did the whole big pull of every close I have ever had. I personally pulled every closing I've ever had on the MLS and then went and looked to see if they have moved. And I found 17 people that sold a house that I sold to them that did not resell it with me. Yep. And I didn't know that, right? They were in somebody else's database.
Yes.
At the very least, they didn't feel like they were in mine.
Yep.
And this is where you can separate yourself from other agents, because that story that Nick just told, they kind of semi-lost but semi-won one back. But most of the time, you don't even get a chance to win that back. Like that's crazy rare that you even
100%.
have that opportunity. And so take advantage of your opportunities if you are going to make a move, right? If you are going to do a price adjustment, pair it with an open house. If you are going to make a move in your brokerage, pair it with new activities. Besides reconnecting with your database, Brokerage Change is a great way to do that organically, not like a Gomer, like organically.
Yeah, which we have on our team. We've really instituted more of that. You bring your database, we're gonna help bring it to life and help grow it and water it and help you pull deals out of it. So one of the things out of this, right? So number one is the hidden cycle that's impacting realtors is that uninformed optimism. We call that, another word, hopium. Like, we have this hope that this brokerage is going to make me successful, this team's going to make me successful, but I'm not willing to change. I'm not willing to change my efforts. I'm not willing to pour into myself. And so what ends up happening is, once you make that change, stage 2 is now it's an informed pessimism, right? So that you have that uninformed optimism. That's the happiest point out of this entire stage. Gives you the most excitement. It's hitting all your dreams, all your goals. You haven't gone through any of the crap. And then all of a sudden you join that brokerage, you join that team, and then we get into informed pessimism, right? This is where you move out of that first stage and into understanding that, if you pull that up, Jesse, I like that other wording than what I have written down here. That one. That one's really good. So it's from Lighthouse. So this is where things are getting harder.
Yeah.
right? And right now, the honeymoon stage for a lot of people lasted a long time, longer than most.
This is where you say the agents who never even talk to you and never show up, they go from 1 to 2 and then bail. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like this informed pessimism, this is where they've kind of gotten a little bit scared. They don't even call you, right? You're kind of either too embarrassed or not confrontational. You don't even want to bring it up. You just want to move on and just never talk to any of those humans ever again, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of start feeling like, wait a minute, this didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I don't have a... And you may even realize that you're the one who made the mistake. Like, this is kind of on you. You made the mistake, and now you're realizing, like, I'm just going to bail on this shit, right? Like, I've watched many agents do that, where they just kind of realize, all right, I didn't make the decision that was right for me. It's not the wrong decision.
Yeah.
It's just because they didn't put any effort into the decision.
Yeah.
They didn't put any effort into the change part of it.
Yeah.
And now they feel like they made the wrong decision. I'm just going to walk away before I even talk to anybody.
And the easiest way to kind of maybe relate to this into your real estate business would be, let's say, all right, you know, you're still in that honeymoon period. You're starting to get out because you're like, oh, my business is not where it used to be, where it needs to be. My closings are drying up. And you know, like you're like, oh, I need to lead generate, right? Because everyone starts asking, I need to lead generate, and they're like, well, I did an open house last weekend,
yes,
and I got nobody came through. I got one person that comes through, and they had an agent. So open houses aren't for me.
Yep. And then look at the third line of this thing. You can see that this goal is going to involve hard work, and doubt starts to seep in.
Yep.
That's like this can lead to negativity, and essentially the scales can tip. You see the difficulties more than the benefits.
Yep. So you start to question if the benefits are worth the effort. So what I always like to say is the juice worth the squeeze in this. And this is where you start to say, like, man, I don't know if real estate is for me anymore. I think that I should probably go back to doing what I used to do. I should probably look for that salary job. Actually, are you guys hiring? Because I love real estate, but I also like I like to make consistent money. Are you hiring?
Be your director of lead generation. Can I be? Do you need an admin? Right? Like, I've also, this is a little side note, but don't just hire the admin who wasn't somebody else's good admin. I always hire the admin who somebody else is about to fire because I'm like, I just need him a little bit, like whatever, and then I bring him on. I'm like, oh, you were leaving for a reason.
You're like, one person's trash is not another person's treasure.
Not when it comes to leverage.
Yeah.
Nay.
Yeah. And so this is where, you know, realistically, this is where we start to see people start to really just give up on themselves or give up on their business, right? And you know, at times this is where a little bit of that, there's part of depression can hit a little bit, right? This is, you know, again, you're questioning whether the efforts, you know, are all this efforts worth the outcome, the benefits.
Walk the human experience out, right? You got into real estate, getting away from some shit job and probably a boss that annoyed you. You were looking for financial freedom. You were coming into this industry. You absolutely were going to make $100,000 a year. That was no doubt, because I've heard every single one of you say it, right? Like, you're going to make $100,000 a year. You were going to work for yourself. You're going to have own hours. You were going to be able to go on vacation. You'll be able to pick your kids up from school. And now it's 18 months in, and you realize it didn't really work out that way, right? And then you finally decide to make a move. And you're like, this place that I landed was not the right place. I'm going to move on. Nick told me it was really awesome at the Good Home Team. The place has all this cool stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go over there. Now, I do the same shit I've been doing the whole time in my career, right? Which is talking about real estate instead of putting activity to it, right? You start talking to your friends. You talk about the movie you make. Talk to your spouse about it. You talk to everybody about it. Maybe, and you just sit there, and now you do absolutely nothing. Or you make the move too quick, and then you're looking at Nick to be the savior, the one who's going to get you the time back with your kids. It's not really, like, I think sometimes we look at it as too black and white of the real estate problem. The reality is, whenever somebody leaves real estate, in any entrepreneurial endeavor is like
an angel gets its wings.
No, it's probably an angel gets their wings ripped off, right? Like, because it is a dream dying. That's what it is. It's not just somebody getting another job. When you quit your shit job to go to a less shit job that pays a little bit more, that is not the same as stepping out on your own, trying to build a business and walking away from it. And that is a completely different feeling of failure, I think, when you talk about the emotions that come into that. And people are thinking about making a change. I want to acknowledge the fact that we all think that, by the way. Right? Like you don't get to a level of real estate where you don't worry about this and worry about if you're going to continue to be able to provide. Nick and I have these conversations on the side a lot where we talk about, like, is all of this really worth it? Would it be easier to do this differently, right? Like you're not asking the wrong question. If you can check the box that you put in everything that you could, then you're not asking the wrong question. If you can't check that box, then you still have to look at yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and all right, so let's go through this, right? So again, the first stage is that uninformed optimism. That's the honeymoon. You're so excited. That's the best part of this is the excitement and all the benefits, right? Then you start getting into it and you're like, ooh, this shit's a little bit harder than what I realized or what I anticipated or how I dreamt of it. And, you start looking for reasons to actually give up.
Or how they showed us on TV.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not how it goes on TV. You actually don't get to sleep in the house before buying.
Yeah.
And my buyers are upset. And so, but you don't necessarily, phase 2 or stage 2 of that is not the most reason why people give up. Right? Because it's like, all right, I'm doing some of the efforts, and that's when that's when the questioning starts happening.
Yeah.
And usually that's when you start to see the activity go down. But they haven't given up all the way because they may still have enough money. Then you get into stage 3, which is the worst part. Right, this is stage 3 is the valley of despair.
It sounds terrifying.
It sounds awful.
It sounds like it's like one of the places that Atreyu has to go through in the never-ending story to like reach the end.
Right? Yes,
and it might be.
And this is the stage that is the lowest of lows, the lowest point. Super depressed. You're messed up emotionally. You're mentally burned out. You're mentally just exhausted. You're done. You're tired. Right, and the pain of change is felt and the benefit seems so far away and unimportant that the quickest way to end the discomfort is to quit, right? And then go back to the way you did things before. And so this is where people, if you see a lot of people that job hop and you're like, oh, this job is amazing, Matt. They've got great benefits. They have awesome people there. We're making an impact in the community of whatever we're doing. And then 30 days later, you see them. You're like, Matt's like, hey, Nick, how's the job going? I'm like, that job sucked. Oh, I thought the people were awesome. No, actually, those people, they're awful. They're the worst human beings you could ever think of. But I'm on to this new job, and it's the best job ever. Right? And it's that entire cycle because everyone is always searching for that uninformed optimism. But the biggest part is if you quit here, you're going to end up back at stage 1 and you're going to have to start all over again.
Yep.
Right? So that's that Groundhog's Day effect. And the problem we have in this industry right now is that it's on brokerage, it's on teams, it's on agents, it's on everyone to do better, to skill up and to understand. And I was having a conversation today, and my sister-in-law was overhearing me because I was like, I just don't understand why it's this hard to understand and figure out. And because to me, it's logical that when everyone's not buying, this is the best time to buy, right? Because you can get more concessions, you can get interest rate, you can get anything you want. So why are there not more buyers willing to take advantage of it? And it's also because we, as real estate professionals, aren't doing a good enough job of getting the message, the story out, and show them why it's the best time. Right? Why you may have to make some sacrifices to buy. This whole reason of I'm in a 2.75% interest rate, so why would I trade this rate for a higher rate? Is to me BS. We're not buying homes based on rates. We're buying homes based on how it affects my family and my lifestyle and what I'm using for it.
The reality is the pain that decision is causing people is years down the road usually.
Yep.
Meaning that lack of retirement, that lack of having any kind of emergency fund for a big medical bill, that lack of being able to put a parent in the ground when they pass away, right? Like the financial implications of bad financial decisions don't always show up next month's rent due.
Right.
And that's the thing is if there's not enough pain happening in their life to force them into action. If your rent is still not terrible and you've kind of been told your whole life that high interest rates are the sole reason to not buy a house if you ever see them, then you're working off a whole lot of mental biases and there's not enough pain moving you forward that's really what's happening. Is as a society we're becoming comfortable with renting. It's the same thing why people don't go to the gym, right? You may have some health concerns now, you may even be overweight, but the reality is the time that you're losing is time on the back end that is unrealized time yet. Right? Every cigarette you smoke takes 7 minutes off your life, but we're starting from 78 and we're subtracting 7 minutes from there. So like there's no real consequence to the longevity of your life right now when smoking cigarettes, so people do it. It's the same thing with kind of making bad financial decisions. It's affecting future Matt down the road. So this Matt will continue to kind of not look at things logically, just look at, well, this is what my parents told me. And I'm not saying those high interest rates are right for everybody. What you were just saying is very logical. And I think the problem is humans are not. And so they're not looking at it through that logical lens at all. They're like, my rent's not that bad. Interest rates are 7%. I'm out. And that's the end of the conversation for them.
Right. And us as real estate, we're not doing the necessary work to help them self-discover. And for us to come from a seeking of understanding.
Is that realistic, though? Is it realistic to help everybody understand that it might be the right time for them to buy? Some of those conversations just don't present themselves.
I think 100% it's our job.
When the conversation comes up.
Sure, or should we be talking about it more and more and more and more? Not that, hey, by the way,
aren't you just going to sound like somebody who's trying to sell houses in a market? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know that, and I know you and I have a different sales philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, those aren't the people that's not my audience anyways. For me, it's like, is it easier to have conversations with the small amount of people in your world about it, or because then realistically you're not really going to be able to go out. The industries, real estate agents, I don't believe are changing the public's mind on a whole lot of issues. I don't think we're trusted.
I'll go back to my sister-in-law as prime example. Like she's purchased five houses. I think she owns 4 or 5 now, and she's buying one in New York right now. And we just helped them buy a place here in Texas, and we talked about the interest rate buy down. She's like, I've never heard of that. I was like, oh, okay. So I explained it. Mortgage Mike did the loan and explained it. And so she's talking to her mortgage broker up in New York, and they've never heard of the interest rate buy down.
Yeah.
They're like, it's like speaking foreign language to them. And, she's like, don't worry about it. Just this is how it's going to work. Just explain it to the condo owner and do it that way. And so my belief is that, number one, we need to be telling the story. So because right now everyone's listening to the media.
Yeah.
So if not, they're getting their information from someone.
You're right.
Who's
they're not
gonna
uninformed. You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
Who's it going to be? Is it going to be from you?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be from CNN, Fox News, whatever they're listening to? And what is that going to be? That's all negative.
Yeah.
Because negativity sells. And so, for us to do a better job, and it helps our business as well, is how are we able to make this market make sense?
Yeah.
And to me, it makes sense as a buyer rather than COVID buyers where they were having to come out of pocket $100,000 of their own money and not necessarily, they're not necessarily getting that part back now, and they had to be so liquid to be competitive. Now you don't have to have that, right? And buyers back then that didn't have the liquidity were complaining that that's unfair.
Yes.
Now, those liquid buyers aren't as they're not wanting to put all their money into a house, and so now as a buyer who may have been waiting or pushed on the sidelines, forcefully pushed and having to wait, now this is your opportunity to take advantage.
Oh, trust me, I fully agree with you. It is a good time.
So again, we should be, number one, we should be telling it using this type of podcast medium. Go to torstudios.com, hire Jesse. Jesse can get it, and then you just start dripping that into your database. Because the more it goes over and over and over again, eventually it's you can't change their mind, but you can slowly start to plant seeds in their mind so that they start questioning, is now the right time? They're like, oh, Matt Kelderman over here was sending me something about I could get a lower rate, I could do this, blah, blah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And now you're getting into having more conversations. Yeah. So 100%, you can't force them to make any moves.
Yeah.
Right? But what we can do is come from that educational basis. And so what ends up happening here though is you're in that valley of despair. Right? You're in the worst. And this is where the majority of people quit.
Yeah.
And so the next part to get into stage 4. So if you're, I always question that the people that get through stage 3, the valley of despair, are they really disciplined or are they just unintelligent? Because I'm going to say, like, logical brain thinking me, I'm like, man, I really just want to go back to stage 1 all the time and always be in that happy cycle loop.
Yeah.
and just always keep searching for that versus I don't want to have to go through I don't want to go through the valley of despair. That sounds awful.
Well, it does, and I think when you break it out of the business and apply it to humans, like, because this is very just applicable. Like Katie said earlier, this is very applicable not only to work but kind of to life in a lot of ways. Like, of course, dude, I spent years avoiding certain kinds of pain, only to end up back at number one repeatedly.
Yeah.
But I think like the thing about informed optimism is that it comes from a you that,
and that's
finally,
stage 4, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm ahead of myself.
Yeah.
The thing about informed optimism is that it's coming from an educated version of you. It's coming from a version of you that isn't. It's not like you didn't experience it. It's coming from an educated version of you that lived that life. You know what it's. That's why the valley of despair part is necessary.
Yeah.
Going through that is the learning process that catapults you into the informed optimism, which is where you can start rebuilding all of this stuff. It's where you celebrate yourself. It's where the upswing starts happening again, right? And I think when you come out of that shitty stuff, only a version of you that has put that older, less mature version to bed is able to celebrate something like that, right? And
Yeah.
I've lived that in certain ways in my life so many different times. I will say I've never lived it in my business. Like, I don't know if like this informed optimism stage, and I don't know if this is what you were saying, I tend to stay pretty stressed out. You know what I mean? I don't know if I ever really get to the space where I'm celebrating wins, small ones, but not like overall being like, great,
funny.
victory has been reached.
And I know that you didn't know this whole thing as we were bringing it up. I think you've heard me talk about this before. But Jesse, pull that back up so I can read that. So the informed optimism, by the way, this is the possibility of success increases, and you will actually become more optimistic and determined about the road you're on. The benefits come back into focus again because you're making progress. And as you see the light at the end of the tunnel, the costs are feeling more worth it. So at this stage, you just talked about it, is it's actually more important to take the time to celebrate those wins. And this is where, to get out of the valley of despair, this is where it's that it takes the discipline, it takes the determination, sometimes stubbornness, but it also takes that time to pour into yourself. Because at any moment, and we talked about the title of the show of the trap that you're going to fall into is wanting to go back to stage 1, that uninformed optimism, that honeymoon stage, that euphoric dopamine feeling, and it's the always living, always trying to go back and try to live the glory days. Man, if I could do this, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to sell it for millions and billions and whatever, and then that fails because it just wasn't worth it, even though it could have been an amazing idea, and you just gave up.
That stage is where you get to like look at the person you used to be and the things that you used to think were cool or that you devoted your time to, and acknowledge, but then also realize like, I don't need that anymore. And maybe I'm speaking a little bit of just my own personal experience. For me, it's not only do I not need that anymore, I also don't really care what other people think about me not having it. You know what I mean? Because that stage 1, that uninformed optimism, there's still a whole lot of uncertainty and concern for failure and the optics of it, even if it's just to myself and my family, right? But even probably for most people on a grander scale, right? The great thing about kind of being informed and optimistic at the same time is that you have the assurance and the knowledge in yourself to know that you can make it through tough shit, right? And you don't have to go back to that stage, and you get to look at that and be like, oh, that was cute when I used to do that, and I thought that was really cool, and some people even told me it was cool. But I like this quiet, stoic place of knowing myself way better than I like this other place of just, hey, I'm really excited about what's going to happen, or just like a puppy just running around into everything. Right?
Well, it feels like you're gaining that ground. And the easiest way, if we can paint this visualized picture of this, which is, all right, stage 1, you're overlooking a cliff, right? And you got this big boulder you're pushing. And you don't imagine when you're pushing that boulder that what happens when you get to the edge. Boulder goes down, and it just tumbles down. You have no control over it, right? And then it goes down to the bottom, the valley. And you're just bound to determine, because you're stubborn, that you're going to start pushing this boulder up the hill from stage 3 to stage 4. Stage 3, valley of despair, you're like, F this, I'm going to push this up, and I'm going to make it all the way to the top. And you start to get it rolling upwards, and it takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of just grit, And now you're like, oh, it's moving. It's going up. It's going up. It's going up. And this is that stage 4, that informed optimism. You're, for the first time since stage 1, you're back into that positive state of mind. And this is where you feel that momentum. But the biggest key here for an agent success is that is not to give up. Because think about it this way. When you go from stage 1 to stage 4, what ends up happening? You're tired.
Exhausted.
It's exhausting. It's a mental mind game with yourself. And you look like you've just been through hell and high water. You look beat up. You know, you may have put some weight on because you may have been neglecting here and there of your own personal health. And what do people end up doing in stage 4 is they're like, oh, they got some momentum, they got some deals closing, they start to let their foot off the pedal, or maybe they even take a little vacation. And that's like when you're pushing that boulder up the hill and you step aside. And if you don't have the brake on it and you actually don't have the momentum, what happens? That boulder rolls back downhill. And so really to push through is you got to find that second wind, that second energy. And if you're able to do that, which is a lot of work, then you're going to get to stage 5, which is success and fulfillment, which is the final stage of this emotional roller coaster. And the benefits of this is that you have new behaviors that are fully experienced, and the cost of change is now perceived as it was worth it. And your actions or this business of once was hard now becomes and uncomfortable now becomes easy and routine, right? So it's like, you know, if you think of it, the easiest way I can put it is I was talking to a newer agent, and this new agent was like, phone calls aren't working for me. I'm not good at it. I think I'm just going to go door knock. I'm better face to face. And I was like, look, Matt, because this was Kelderman talking to me about this. I was like, Kelderman, we don't start out great on the phone. We sound ridiculous. But you do 1,000 phone calls.
Yep.
You do 5,000 phone calls. And then all of a sudden, you could do those calls in your sleep. You could do those calls and you're now just so scripted. The fact is they're so easy that you find yourself actually doing the same type of formalized script with anybody, friends, family, spouse. And
that's great when they know what you're doing too. They're like, don't do that shit to me.
They're like, don't client me. I'm sure Victoria says that. Heather says that all the time. She used to say, don't KW me.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't need to hear that stuff.
Right? Because once was hard and uncomfortable, now just that's normal routine. And it's easy. And you're prepared for all the objections. The fact, if they don't throw an objection out there, it's the same thing that you say with an agent that just doesn't ask questions, just sign up, and you're like, ooh, why are they not questioning?
I'm almost nervous to go on that appointment. I'm like, man, am I about to drive over here for nothing?
Yeah,
they're not going to remember I was coming by today. Like,
yeah, those are the ones that just bring the paperwork. I'm ready to sign. And I'm
Yeah.
like, we didn't talk about commission. We didn't talk about pricing. We didn't talk about what I'm going to do for you. We didn't set expectations.
I had an opportunity like that in McKinney, and the guy was just like, come over, and then I went over and then like just never heard from him ever again.
Yes.
Like I have an actual alert set up. By the way, sneaky little tip, if you ever just want to keep an eye on certain listings, you can set up in our MLS at least. You can just set up an alert for that listing. And if there's any activity on it, it goes active, coming soon or whatever, you'll just get an email like you're a client. And so sometimes I've got a little running list of a few properties I want to keep an eye on.
One of the things that I've always talked about with our agents is as they're going through this, because we used to teach them, I need to do a better job now that the market's changing again and going into this tougher cycle, is bringing this back and bringing it to the forefront more and more often to them, because I'll always bring up to them while they're building their lead gen business or staying within their lead gen time, is asking, where are you on these 5 stages? Because even if your business is successful, I still do this with any type of move I make or any type of new lead generation tool that I got. I've got one right now that I've already counted all the millions I'm going to make from it. Right? I'm not even counting.
How has nobody even thought of this?
I'm just like, this is so simple, and I'm the first one to bring this to do this. Man, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
And I've not stepped on any landmines, gone through any of the problems. I've just made everyone says yes. and there's no reason why they would say no, and everyone's going to use me and hire me.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we all do this.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go through the work, and I'm going to go through stage 2. I mean, like, man, this shit sucks.
I went through, dude, this happened. This is so funny. We're talking about, you and I had a conversation yesterday that immediately chucked me into the valley of despair.
Yeah.
When we were talking about some automation that we had been talking about running, and all of a sudden found out that as of September 1, that's not an option anymore.
Yeah.
And I literally sat there, and it took me 10 minutes to talk myself out. I was like, well, this was a fucking terrible idea. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then Nick calls me back, and he's like, hey, wait, we can still implement this idea, and we'll do it this way. And I'm like, okay. And then, like, immediately back over, right?
And we were back in stage 1. You're like, actually, that's better because we could do this, this, and this. And it's like,
I took notes. I got so excited. I got up and grabbed a piece of paper so I could take notes on our conversation.
yeah. So we still, like, it doesn't matter where you are within the success level.
Yeah.
We all go through that.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about the 5 cycles here, is that we, no matter whom you are, is that we all go through this.
Yeah.
And, just know that if you're committed to the success, and you're committed to learning how to win in this industry, and then you're committed to taking action,
Yep.
that you're going to win.
Yeah.
Right?
I love some of the things, and sometimes we get confirmation in life of this happens to me frequently, like something I've been doing for years.
Who said whom, by the way?
That was Nick, and she said incorrect use. Jeez, just flying in. You did say whom.
With what?
I don't know. You said you just used a second ago.
With whom?
Yeah.
I think it's the right way.
I don't know. Jesse will go back and post and find it out
Yeah.
for us.
I definitely will.
Yeah, replay this. You know what, Katie? Get off this stream.
She's our top commenter.
Yeah.
Katie, stay.
Yeah, this is bullshit.
Damn, I was going somewhere with my point. I don't remember where I was. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because
remember what
Katie
we're
just
talking
threw this off.
I don't remember what I was talking about. I felt like I had something there.
It's probably
That's
the
rare
best
for me.
one out.
It's probably the best idea I've ever had on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the actionable part of it. One of the things, so Jesse, if you go back to that lighthouse thing, it's nice when you get confirmation in life of things you've been accidentally doing right for a long time. And one of the things I realized super early on, just as an entrepreneur, was, and Nick has done this for years, and Brian does a great job of it, is just writing down ideas, even ideas that are not, you have no chance of executing on them at all right now. Because here's what happens, and you're no different than anybody else. I don't believe that people can go on 5 hours of sleep, so if you tell me you can, I don't believe you. I also don't think you're the type of person who remembers everything, right? That's just not how humans work. Writing down your ideas, even if it's just a note on your phone, and you can do anything. Like right now, I'm making the longest list possible of shit I can hand off to an admin, and I am putting every single little stinking thing I can to put on there. Same thing with your business. If you have an idea that doesn't feel like, this is one of the things that Brian and I were great at, was that we would write stuff down and be totally fine with implementing it way down the line, right? And that's one of the things they suggest right here. And it says, try this exercise. It says, set a timer for 2 minutes and list the reasons why you want to achieve that goal. I would challenge you first off to, the reasons are important, but if you don't have a list of goals first, start with a list of goals.
Yep.
Right? Like, start with the actual things you want to do, and start keeping running lists of your ideas and things that you think might work someday, but you don't have the capacity for right now. You don't know when you're going to hear something that's going to trip that. You don't know when you're going to meet a person that's going to allow you to put action to that. And I will tell you, more than anything, those have caused the biggest pivots in my life, is being ready for opportunity when it comes up, being ready to ask a question that I had thought about before because I took a little time to research it. Those are the things that have helped. Like, when you ask Matt all the times that I remember shit changed, right? That I remember, like, dude, that day was a day that moved my life in a different direction. They have all came because of an opportunity with another human being. 0 of those have been by myself. Right? There's some mental work and some times alone that I did the emotional work to be able to move on. Sure, whatever. But there has always been with the help of another person. So writing these ideas down will allow you to take the best opportunity of them when it's presented. And that's just what we want to give you guys actionable stuff, and that's kind of what it says.
No, this is a big one. I'm happy that I had that call with Denton today.
This is
it
great.
kind of recharged me, because this is something I used to always think about, where am I in this process, and it's a mental exercise that I would always stay on top of. And like Katie said, goals can't be vague. You used the word whom wrong on this one, Katie. Utilize SMART goals, otherwise it's an exercise in folly.
Folly. Yeah. Foley is from Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley.
Yes. It's a great. I have seen that movie.
It's so good, dude. There's so much funny, one-liners from that movie.
Oh, so great.
It's so great. If you've not watched Beverly Hills Cop 1 in a while,
Two is
go
good,
run it back.
too.
2 is good. I will watch all of them.
Oh, yeah.
But 1 is
When I go look at that, it makes
I
me
love
want to
those
live in
movies.
the 80s.
Yes.
Like, it makes me want to be a grown-up in the 80s.
the cigarette truck scene at the beginning when they're just ripping through the streets and he's flying everywhere, and then he gets chewed out in the locker room afterwards. I'm about to laugh just thinking of that damn scene.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
80s Eddie Murphy's off the charts.
What does Brian have to think about this show today?
His camera's off.
Oh, no camera.
Just nothing.
Yeah.
he's just holding a black poster over his
Yeah.
face.
He was real quiet today.
Yeah, Brian was. We had 0 emergency brakes today.
Yeah. This was a great one, and
I'm gonna go back and chop this one up because I think there's a lot of stuff in here that's really actionable, and I probably need to rehear it as I edit it. If you can't,
you can't replace whom with him and have it sound right. It's likely used incorrectly. Rule of thumb.
she is a teacher, and don't use rule of thumb, Katie. It's not a good saying. If you ever seen
True.
Boondock
I
Saints,
have.
Ooh.
It's such a great movie.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
that is a great
God, I
movie.
love that
Underrated movie.
Look, if you like today's show, go leave us a 5-star review on any of the podcast channels, wherever you're consuming this. If you're watching it on YouTube, hit subscribe, make a comment. I will say the comments on YouTube for episode 197, the
Yes.
Keller
So good.
Williams profit share debacle
Yes.
was amazing.
I went back and read that, and I was like, I love it when our YouTube blows up because that's not a place where we spend a ton of attention on this podcast. And so, like, that's how you know you got a hot topic. It's
Yeah.
when people just find it and start yelling at you.
Exactly. Yeah. And they weren't yelling at us. The good news is they
No.
because we did a good job of making that as kind of a non-biased or non-opinion. There's a lot of opinions on it.
There are
but
opinions, but I think
no one was throwing
no,
major
I
shade.
think everybody understood it from a business standpoint for sure. And like I said, I mean, I have personal feelings about it, but
Yeah, no 100%. So
I lost
go
0.
listen to 197. Leave us a 5-star review. Go join our Facebook group, the only real estate group worth being a part of. And then next week's show is 200.
200, which we have very little fanfare about.
Yeah, you know what? When we did 100, we were really thoughtful on this one.
I ruined 100. I think we probably would have jumped at 200 if I hadn't been such a hard on at 100. For the people who don't understand, like, it is so much. If you're thinking that like you don't want to talk in front of people, let me tell you a little story. And this will be our pitch for Tor Studios. I do this podcast in tons of video. I've sat down with Ryan Serhant. I've had Jesse circle around me with a camera for 2 hours.
Vague brag.
Yeah,
I've
and
sat down with
humble-
Brian.
I did. It was cool, and I had no problem doing any of that. We got to freaking Stinky Pizza, wherever the hell that place was, whatever that damn bar was we went to, and I was about ready to rip the cords out of the wall to not have to do that show. I was terrified of
Yeah.
doing it in front of 25 people live.
Yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah.
So Tor Studios podcasts ain't the same as doing it in front of people. Don't be scared. It's easy.
Yeah, tourstudios.com. I mean 200.
Episode 200.
That is cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, we've taken some episodes off. It took us 5 years to get to 200, which if you do the math at a show a week, we miss some. But
And we took
like,
vacations.
I will forever say this, man. I remember when one of the guys from Titanium told us that to let them know when we'd done 17.
We'll let them know that
We're about to do 200, boys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Right.
I mean,
What have you ever done?
yeah, I think he's got a lot of episodes.
Yeah, I think he's way past 200.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, look, that is the deal. If nothing else, like, learn from, like, it sounds douchey, our successes. We tripped and fell into this podcast. We tripped and fell into property management. Like, we executed on things after that. We have not been numbnuts about everything. But these were not years on the board. These were things that we took an opportunity, an educated decision. Adam Hergenrother said this to me one time. He takes he wants 70% of the information on big decisions and 40% of the information on little decisions. Stop waiting for 100% of the information to make a decision. Right now, you are thinking about doing something in your business, whether it's implement something, make a move, quit altogether. Don't wait to have 100% of the information. It does not exist.
I will give, 59 minutes into this, I will give a strategy here that if you did not want to pick up the phone, and let's say that this is a little longer play here, but you hired Jesse at tourstudios.com.
Yep.
And what I would end up doing is you don't have to interview real estate agents. You can be a solo podcast or bring guests on, and you don't even have to be in the studio. Jesse can do this over online, an interview style format, which he's used to. He's done that with Armando Montalongo. He's done that with Tarek El Moussa, and plenty of other guests.
Yep.
And from that, I would be interviewing your local business owners. And if you don't have time to go in person, or you want to be more time efficient and you want to crank out like maybe 6 in a day, 5 in a day, Jesse has plenty of time on his hands.
It won't for long though.
Yeah. And so you knock out 5 to 6 of them and just have Jesse, then Jesse will schedule to release them. And then you have the business owner push it out to their Facebook page and their Facebook media and LinkedIn, and you parasite market and really have them write up a great review about working with whatever service you're providing. And then you just parasite market on it, and you start really promoting your brand and start really reaching all the, putting your fingertips in every area of that community.
We have watched an agent who has not even been in the business for 24 months build a couple of Facebook groups and kind of take a version of this idea and turn it into a business that every single one of us would kick a baby seal for.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no doubt. Like, it is a very effective way to get your name out there when executed properly.
100%.
Yeah.
So, great. I don't know. Jesse's logging into his Facebook right now.
I know.
So
I was gonna look at something.
He's gonna go look.
You know what you could do? I don't know if this was showing up on the other screen, but I watched this Instagram video of this guy that lost several 100,000, I think it was, because he was on a live stream, and it showed. I guess he didn't know that it was showing his other screen, and it showed him logging into his crypto wallet. And the minute he realized, he took the stream down, but they had already stolen.
Somebody had already done something.
Then he goes back live crying and asking for them to give it back. It was,
dude.
This is what I was looking at.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, I mean, almost 21,000 people in a group that's not even a year old.
Yep.
Don't let anybody
smokes.
convince you that Facebook groups are dead. They are not at all.
Nope.
And that person is executing on even more.
You have
Like,
to be very
I just got an
intentional.
invite to another one. Like, that's at least 3 that I know of.
yeah.
And it's also, let's be honest, top 2% that person is.
100%.
When it comes to
Yeah,
work ethic, when it comes to understanding, when it comes to asking intelligent questions, I will say that's the greatest compliment I can give that person, is they ask the best questions and then take that information and immediately implement.
100%.
Immediately implement.
Yeah.
I know.
You should also go and implement our sponsors. Mortgage Mike, mmgloans.com. You got Theron over at Armadillo Home Warranty, armadillo.1
/store.
/store. Then you got Dan and Wynn, Homeward DFW, the best property management company in Dallas, Fort Worth.
That's blowing up.
And then Tour Studios, tourstudios.com with Jesse Showalter.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
Great show.
This was good. An hour. Brian would be proud. It's so funny. The show Brian's not here. We go. He wants to go long all the time, and we're like, no, dude.
Yep.
But he's not here, so
Yeah.
we went long in honor of his black square chair.
We'll pour some out for him.
There he is. There you go, Brian.
All right.
All right. Get us
See you
the hell
next
out
time.
of here.
200.
200 next week.
200.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. And then go to that one. Thanks.